Hey, and welcome back to another game walkthrough from the original platformer. Today we're going to play the great game of Zork. Obviously we're still here on our Apple IIe, so go ahead and fire this up and we can talk about what the game is and how it works. So the game of Zork is it's a puzzler game in the vein of The Hobbit, in that it's interactive fiction. And it's all text-based, so it does allow you to use your imagination to solve things. One of the biggest differences between this one and The Hobbit is there is no story. So at least in The Hobbit, if you had read the book and you went up and saw the trolls, you kind of knew that you couldn't fight the trolls head-on. You had to have the sun go ahead and turn them to stone. Now, the game didn't tell you how to make that happen, but at least you knew what you needed to do. And that came straight from the story. Likewise, when we went to see Elrond, you knew that he was going to help you decipher the map. So you had to make sure that Gandalf didn't run off with the map from you before you went there. So the story really helped you to solve and get through that adventure in a very satisfying way. Because of this, the complete lack of story here, it does take a different mindset to enjoy this game. So if you like working on crossword puzzles or just puzzles in general, without any kind of backstory to bring some life and color to it, then this is the game for you. If you don't like those type of games, then you're going to hate the Zork. All right, so with the Zork, as I said, it is an evolutionary leap above what we can do with what we've seen done with the Bard, or excuse me, the Hobbit. And we'll go through at least the first 4 or 5 different interactions here, so you can kind of see how the game works and see some of the other differences. Another thing that you'll see right off the bat is, if you remember in The Hobbit when we opened the door out of Bilbo's house, I believe the game told you specifically exits are to the east. So if you're going to build a map, you could start out with some graph paper, draw a picture of the Hobbit's house, and then go east from there. And when you wanted to go back into the Hobbit's house, you'd go west from that location. This game is not that. So there are no distinct descriptions around where things are or what exits you have. So for example, here, it does give you the fact that you're standing in an open field west of a White House. That's about the most description of directions that you'll see here. There's exits to the north, there's exits to the east. So building a map is really challenging. The other thing that you'll experience in this game is that if you are in room A, for example, underground, and you go south into room B, the directions from room B back to room A may or may not be north. The best description that I saw of this is, instead of thinking of it as a fixed grid, as we would in The Hobbit, think of it like a wiring diagram on a circuit board, where the wire can start at one location in a room, go down and swoop over to another one on the other side. And so if you think about it, if you're in a tunnel, if you're in a room, and there's a tunnel leaving out of the south side of that room, and the tunnel curves to the east as you're walking through it, when you're in that second room, to go back to the first one, you actually need to go west. So once you get past that, it makes a lot more sense. But if you're not used to drawing a map in that manner, it can be frustratingly difficult. All right, so let's go ahead and the classic thing to do is open the mailbox. And go ahead and read the leaflet. All right, this isn't required for the game at all, but it does give you notes of who worked on it and when. All right, so we could go straight over to the house, but I happen to know that there is one of the treasures a bit north of here first. And along the narrow path. And we can see that there's some low branches on a large tree. So one of the things that you'll see in this game is that because there's no story, it does put clues out for you. They don't put the words here just for story reasons. So if you see something interesting or unique about a space, take note of it. So if there's large branches here, you might want to go and climb the tree and find it. what's in there. Oops. You also have to type correctly. All right, so we can see a bird's nest with a large jeweled egg. So all right, so now that we've taken the egg, we can go ahead and go down. Like with the Hobbit, you can abbreviate the directions and go down like that. All right, so we'll go south. And we're at the north of the house, so we'll go on to the east of the side. So now we're behind it, and to get into the house, you actually have to jimmy the window open and then climb through. And then we'll go west. All right, so as I said before, there will be clues throughout your adventure of what you need to search for. And there'll be a lot of objects that you can take. For the most part, all the objects have to do with one or more of the puzzles. So if you see something, take something. The one caveat is that you do have a limited amount of carrying capacity, so you may not be able to hold everything that you want at a time. For the most part, you can take something and drop it later and come back and pick it up, but there are spots where, for example, the thief will go around and move things on you, so that can be a challenge as well. So we'll go ahead and take the sack. All right, so now we can go over to the living room. Oops. All right, so here is the central point of the game. The goal of this game is to find a number of treasures and put them into the trophy case. So here is the trophy case, and inside it are the first things we need to help solve many of the puzzles. We'll need the sword to fight some things, and then a lantern. Because we're going underground, you can imagine that light is a bit scarce, so we do need to collect the lantern and make sure that we use it judiciously, because I do believe it is battery powered. So if you leave it on the whole time, it will eventually run out, and then you might get stuck. So you only want to turn it on and off when you absolutely need it. All right, so let's go ahead and explore the house and see what else we can find. All right, so even though it didn't tell you that there's something up there, but in the rooms, you can always try up and down and see if you can actually get up somewhere. So we're now up in the attic, so go ahead and turn the light on. So there are probably 7 or 8 different ways you can use the text editor to turn the light on. You can just use the word light, and you'll see in parentheses it will say, I'm turning the lamp on. You can also say turn lamp on, turn light on, turn on lantern. There are a lot of synonyms that the parser will understand for you, and so it gives you great flexibility in how you want to word things. If it says something it doesn't understand, say I don't understand that word, or if it needs more clarification, so if we were in the trophy case looking at the sword and lantern and just said the word take, it would say take what, and then you can enter in sword and lantern. All right, so we already have a sword, so we probably don't need a knife, but we should probably take that rope. And we'll go back down into the kitchen. All right, so now that we're in the kitchen, we need to find the entrance to the caves, if you will. So go back into the living room. If you forget what is in a room, you can always use the word look, and it will describe everything for you. And in this case, there's a large oriental rug in the middle. So let's go ahead and move rug. And you can see that there is a trap door, so I have to open it first. And we'll go ahead and go down. All right, so we can see that we are now in the cellar and the door is locked behind us, but that's okay. There's a way to get out of here. All right, so at this point, we're going to do one more thing, and then I'm going to show some of the differences in evolutionary steps from the Hobbit to here, and then I'll leave the rest of it as an adventure for you to complete. All right, so the first thing we'll see is that our sword is glowing a faint blue. This is actually a great callback to the Hobbit. If you remember Sting, Bilbo's sword will actually turn blue when he's close to orcs. So that's kind of a shout out to there. So we'll go ahead and go north. And we're in the troll room. And this is great. We're actually dead. So this is one of the luck-based things that happens. Many times you'll go into the troll's room and you'll surprise him, or you just get to look at him and he'll swing and a miss. In this case, he actually go ahead and hit us straight on the head and killed us right away. The story is funny enough to put us back out in the forest. And so that is one fun part of the game. I've actually go ahead and I've saved a couple spots on this game in just such an instance. And what you can do is you can save them on a saved disk game, and go ahead and pop that over into disk 2 here. And I think it was position 0, and then you've got the option between the 2 disk drives. So we'll go ahead and notice that the red light will go ahead on the second side. And now if we go north back in to see the troll room, you can see obviously we didn't die this time. And another great feature of this parser is you can just type in the word again instead of typing out everything as you had before. And you can swing, and now we go ahead and kill them. So as far as life and death goes in this game, obviously we saw that death can come swiftly, but if you want to know how you're doing, you can diagnose your pains. You can take 2 slight wounds or 1 serious wound. If the troll had hit us, it may say you've been hit and there's blood trickling out of your leg or something like that, and that would be a slight wound. If you have 2 slight wounds, you're dead. If you have 1, you're still alive, but your carrying capacity is diminished, so that can be a challenge as well. All right, so the other thing I wanted to show, oops, not that one, I wanted to go back into another room. So what I wanted to show here is the variability in the answers of how things work. In the Hobbit's game, if you did a certain action the same way multiple times in a row, so you like reload the game, restart, or reload the game, and then do that thing again, you will always see the same answer. That's not a knock on the Hobbit, it's just the way it was written. So it's definitely a much simpler game. What you'll see in this game is that there's actually numerous ways for a puzzle to resolve itself, and it really depends on if you've ever played Dungeons & Dragons. It's almost like a D8 roll. So right now we are down below the thief's hideout, and we're going to go up into it. The thief always gets a free swing at us, and I believe there's about 8 different things that can happen, and so we'll go ahead and restore the game and look at all of them. In fact, what you'll see is that the game is so intricate that it actually has to spin up the disk drive once it figures out what it wants to do to load the answer for that text. So it just gives you a really good indication of how dense the game is as far as options and play experiences. And so you can play this game several times over and get not a completely different experience, but at least a markedly different experience each time you do it. So go ahead and go up into the hideout. All right, so we've entered the thief's treasure room, and you can see that he's going ahead and strike us like a snake and left us wounded. So that was one option. Then what I want you to notice is it'll scroll most of the text, and then when it gets to the bottom, it'll actually spin up the drive one more time to get the answer to the variable text at the bottom. All right, we dodged the thief. Hit us like a snake. A thrust pinks our left arm. We've got a stiletto hitting us, and we've got blood coming from our leg. And I could go on and on, but I think you get the point here is that the game does have a lot of variability built into it, so it is definitely a much more dense game as far as gameplay goes than we saw with The Hobbit. And that's really kind of the excitement of it. Obviously, there's tons of puzzles, and the through line of all of the experiences that I've had with Zork is it is just straight all puzzle based. And so if, like I said before, if you do like solving just pure puzzles, then this can be an interesting way to spend quite some time. Obviously now there's lots of walkthroughs, and I'll leave some links to the walkthroughs in my written description of the game. But I hope this gives you a quick overview of how Zork works and some flavor of the type of game experience and gameplay that you'll see. Again, thank you for joining us on this next adventure, and then I think we've got a couple more text-based adventure games, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up this series, and then I'll put a complete evolutionary walkthrough of all of them together so you can see how each of them and how the genre evolves over time. All right, so thanks again for joining us on this trip, and until next time, game on.